Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 26, 2026 City of Gardner Planning Commission meeting. Could you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with Commissioner roll call, beginning on my right.
Commissioner Landsberg present.
Commissioner Vonderschmidt present.
Commissioner Souza present.
Commissioner Combs present.
Commissioner Byrd present.
Commissioner Olucci present.
We have a quorum. Moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Are there any items a member of the Planning Commission would like to remove from the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olucci with a second by Commissioner Combs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Moving to the regular agenda, item number 1, Security First of Gardner site plan. I believe this item is getting, it says here the applicants requested this item to be tabled and brought back at a future meeting. No vote is necessary. So we will move on to regular agenda item number 2, Magnolia Fields. This is a rezoning from RP2 to RP4. Has a preliminary development plan, preliminary plat, and this is also a public hearing item. Is the applicant here for a presentation?
Ready? Good evening, Matt Slish with Engineering Solutions, 50 Southeast 30th Street, Lee Summit, Missouri. I have the developer with me as well. He'll take on part of the presentation tonight, and we'll kind of walk through the project. Go to the next slide. So the project, Kimley Horn did the traffic analysis out on 167th. Lone Tree Development will come up and speak in a second. Spencer will, and then Engineering Solutions, we take care of all the site and the civil side of it. So if you will, I'll let Spencer come and talk about himself and his company, and then I'll come back and talk about the project.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As Matt mentioned, my name is Spencer Jarvis, here representing Lone Tree. Also with me today is our CEO, Jenny Nilsson. We're based in Utah, and we're excited to have this opportunity to be a part of progress in Gardner. Can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So just wanted to introduce ourselves and give you a little bit of a background on who we are and kind of what we're about. As mentioned, the name of the company is Lone Tree. We have the capacity to handle development projects starting from land acquisition and carrying through all the way to construction, vertical and horizontal, including then property management at the end. And as I said, we're based out of the Provo, Utah area. Next slide, please. Thanks. Our background is that we started in the temporary housing area and spent many years building homes for oil and gas companies around the country and even some outside of the company or outside of the country. And then more recently, we shifted our focus to what we see as the growing need for affordable housing throughout the country. And we decided to specialize in mid-sized markets where there was a clear need and where we could coordinate and cooperate with cities who had a desire to grow and do something about the affordable housing issue together. And so we're currently focused on markets in the Midwest, and we've got several projects. If you can go to the next slide. As you can see, we have several projects throughout the country, including a couple in Washington, Kentucky, Iowa, and then, of course, here in Kansas. As I said at the beginning, it's a pleasure to be here. We've really enjoyed our experience so far working with the city staff. We feel a real desire in Gardner to improve the city. We feel the sense of ownership that the community and the staff have here, and we're excited to be a part of that. Thanks.
So the project itself, sitting generally at the northwest corner of Gardner Road and 167th, directly on the corner is a piece of property that is not owned by us. It's directly to the west north of the existing Sunset Ridge single-family development. Currently, the site's zoned RP2. Some time ago, I believe in the early 2000s, there was a plan for a duplex community similar in nature, but we've taken some changes to it that we believe added some more amenities and green space to that side of it. The site generally is just shy of 18 acres. We're proposing 59 lots. Again, duplex community, so 118 total units with a common area of about just a little over 2 acres kind of dispersed through the site. The use we're proposing is the duplex compact within your development, and we'll talk some of that of kind of the difference between a duplex and duplex compact. The comp plan that you guys currently have is that area is a low-density residential area. But as we look at the zoning map in a second, you'll start to see some of the areas have started to develop. You go to the next one. It started to develop in different ways. So more of a hard commercial corner at the northwest corner of 167, the Gardner, RP3 to the south, RP2 to the southwest. Again, kind of northeast of us is RP3. So it's beginning to develop in a little more of a not high density, but higher density than the low density I think the original comp plan had shown kind of as we continue through that corridor in that area. So as we started to talk through, as we looking at the options of your code having duplex or duplex compact and kind of the zoning choices we made, we provided in here straight out of your code the zoning districts you have that start to talk about the slot standards, the setbacks, and at the bottom you'll see how we fit and comply. We kind of fit kind of in the middle ground. So as a duplex standard is typically 5,000 square feet per unit or 10,000 square foot lots. Our lots are averaging about 8,200 square feet. The duplex compact then is 6,000 square foot on that side of it. So we're kind of in that mid ground of where it sets, or 3,000 per unit on that side. The lot sizes then, the minimum lot width, we're going to sit to the standard of 70 foot, which is your duplex standard versus the duplex compact. And as you go on the building coverage, we're kind of in the middle. The front setbacks, the side setbacks, we're generally in compliance with the duplex on the side or the setbacks. And as far as the building height goes, we'd stay in that same height standard that meets in your duplex zoning code. This would be a view from the site sitting kind of at the southwest side of it, looking to the northeast. So again, Sunset Ridge is there to the right side of it. We're in the development kind of behind the power lines on the left side. Next one. So this is now in the southeast corner, kind of looking back. And again, Sunset Ridge is on their left side of your site now. We're kind of on the southeast corner looking northwest into the site. Overall, the development will access 167th and 2 access point locations, one that's directly across and matches up with the development to the south. On the easterly side, you'll see some of that crosshatch that we've shown in there for a future roadway that would allow access to the commercial or whatever ends up being on that hard corner. But our access points will be directly off 167th and come into the site. We provided about an acre on the southwest corner of our site for green space, and then again, about an acre in the middle of the site for green space and amenity space. Landscaping will be dispersed through the site that meets your code, with an additional landscaping kind of put through that center core to kind of create an amenity space that we feel will be a good amenity for the area and a good use for that site. There are a number of deviations that we're going through and asking for on the side of it. We'll go through each of these. So there's a lot of verbiage in there, and I think in the presentation or the submittal you guys have, you should have the list and the reasonings for it. If you go to the next page, it shows kind of that breakdown of deviations. So one of the deviations, deviation 1, is the driveway width. The driveway width in your code doesn't allow, or it's a tighter driveway width, I guess, than what might normally be standard. So as we started to look at what a duplex would want with a 2-car garage, 16 foot wide, a standard driveway that we could fit in there would be 20 feet wide, so we could park 2 cars on that side of it. Deviation 2 then starts to talk about the hardscape out in the front of it. So again, the surface area as it relates to that driveways are a little bit larger, but as you start to see, there's still a sufficient amount of green space out in the front of each one of these spaces, as well as the green space around the building. Deviation 3 then starts to talk about the amount of garage doors that can be visible from the frontage side of it. So you'll again seeing that we've highlighted the 16-foot garage doors. Deviation 4 then starts to talk about your code requires a sidewalk that would go from the building directly to the street. Our proposal is to have that sidewalk or the porch exits go onto the driveways so that we don't have an additional hardscape out in front of the buildings. Deviation 5 then starts to talk about that entryway, and as we're starting to show here, just giving an enhanced entry feature. So as the plans continue to come forward, we'll continue to develop that. But as part of our request, we're providing additional architectural elements and pieces in there as part of that deviation. The next one then starts about deviation 6. As part of the zoning for an RP4, there is an allowance or a requirement of green space that's required. It's 15% of the overall space. We're at 11%. However, because of the reduction in overall space, we've increased the amount of sidewalk trails in there. We've added in a sports court in there. We've added some shade structures in there along the trails, trying to make something that we think the amenity is more useful. So while we are short on the area specifically, we think we've created enough amenities on the site that it should be a good use for the overall development. With that, we're here for any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant before we move on to the staff presentation? All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Matt did a pretty good job with his presentation, so I apologize if you just heard all this. So, as you know, the applicant is requesting approval of a rezoning, preliminary development plan, and preliminary plat permits for a residential duplex development located north of the intersection of 167th Street and Poplar. The property is part of the old Auburn Hills development, which was planned for this area but never built. At that time, the property was rezoned to RP2, planned two-family residential, 4 duplexes. It was sold and divided according to the lines established by the preliminary plat. The property boundary extension to the east was meant to be a portion of street right-of-way. Water main lines, sewer lines, and stormwater infrastructure was installed, but was never accepted by the city. The developer is proposing to use the existing sanitary sewer, which runs east to Gardner Road, but it first needs to be tested and accepted by the city. All previously approved plans have expired for this site. The surrounding zoning includes R1 single-family zoning to the north and to the south, RP3 planned garden apartment residential, and CO commercial office zoning is to the east, shown in that yellow in the upper right corner and then that light blue. To the west is agriculture zoning. The only developed area touching the property is Sunset Ridge to the south. The comprehensive plan future land use map labels the property as low-density residential. The R4 zoning district is typically applicable in the medium or high-density residential land use, but the proposed density of 6.6 units per acre makes the development more typical of a medium-density residential use. The preliminary development plan layout shows the subdivision will be accessed from 167th Street with 2 entrances. The eastern entrance will be reduced to right-in, right-out access when 167th Street is improved sometime in the future. Along that same street, 10 feet of additional right-of-way will be dedicated for a total of 70 feet from the center line. This is more than the usual 60 feet of 1/2 of the right-of-way for arterial roads, but it's necessary because the Sunset Ridge half portion of the right-of-way is only 50 feet wide. The internal street layout is the local neighborhood street type, with the exception of Poplar Street on the left side, which is a collector and will continue to the north. 25 feet of right-of-way is proposed to be dedicated at the southeast corner to allow access to that eastern property, which is currently zoned the commercial office. The site is proposed to be developed as a single phase with 59 lots and 118 units. I would like to point out one correction. The staff report states the lots are a minimum of 58 feet wide, but the actual minimum lot width proposed is 70 feet. The smallest lot size area proposed is about 7,500 square feet. So the 70-foot width is wide enough for RP2 zoning, but since the lot size is under the 10,000 square feet required by duplex, it then makes it the compact duplex type, which is only allowed under the R4 zoning. And then because they're requesting deviations, that's where we get the planned district and the RP4 zoning. Tracts A and B in green will be owned and maintained by the homeowners association. Tract A to the west will be used for stormwater detention and also contains a walking path around it. Tract B in the center of the development is open space and has 2 pavilions, a pickleball court, and a walking trail. The plans are in general compliance with the code, with the exception of the 6 requested deviations. I won't go over these in detail since Matt already mentioned them. Regarding the building deviations, typically we get those with the final, but the applicant requested them at the preliminary stage and then provided justification for what they would be doing to the building permits, the features they would add. And so staff is comfortable with granting them at this stage. Staff finds that with the proposed conditions, the plan reflects generally accepted sound planning and design principles. It provides access for adjacent properties, does not deter any existing or future development on adjacent lots, and achieves the code intent to minimize the number of lots, and is consistent with various policies in the comprehensive plan to support future growth. Staff recommends approval of this development, and there are 2 motions needed for this item. The first is for the rezoning and preliminary development plan. As a reminder, the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the governing body for these 2. Staff recommends approval with 3 conditions. The first is to ensure the site meets stormwater requirements. Second is to ensure the existing sewer meets city requirements. And then the third is so the building elevations comply with the deviation requests. The second motion is for the preliminary plat, which the Planning Commission is the decision-making body for. And staff recommends approval of that with 1 condition. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? Okay. All right, with that, this item requires a public hearing. We will now open it. If anyone in the audience would like to speak regarding this item, if you have not already done so, please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet at the back of the room. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address for the public record. Individuals will have 3 minutes to speak. A speaker representing a group such as an HOA will be allotted 7 minutes. Please address your comments and any questions to the Planning Commission. Any questions raised by those speaking will be addressed at the conclusion of the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? I see him signing. Sir, in the back.
Sir,
Yes.
we're asking, are you wanting to speak on this?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you can, oh yeah, I guess finish it up and then.
Is it okay?
Yep.
My question is,
Yeah, name and address.
Gary Sparks, 16530 South Gardner Road, Gardner, Kansas. It's a big two-story stone house. Stuff. When my dad sold this part of it, he got the Latha Hospital bought that corner on 167th and stuff to 16 point acres. And then when this all got divided up by the developer, my dad got beat out of the second, third payment, never transacted and went through. The sheet and letter that I got shows where they come in from Gardner Road, their east entrance, and it didn't show these two south entrance coming into the duplexes. It just showed the one coming in and stuff. And that right away, it's 6.5 acres there, or 6.3 acres is commercial ground and stuff where they had to, where we allowed them to put the sewer and stuff in through the farm. And I'm opposed to this right away coming in from Gardner Road, because then it takes all my easement out of my yard.
Yeah, we'll definitely ask about that. Do you have any other questions or comments or concerns?
No, I just seen that they had two entrances coming in from 167th, and that wasn't presented on my paper that was mailed out to me. And that's why I have questions and stuff, easements and stuff on that allotment there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing that no one else is approaching the podium, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olucci, a second by Commissioner Berg. All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Let's begin with Commissioner discussion on my right.
So I'm a little confused on the deviations 1 and 2, the numbers and percentages matching up. Does that make sense? Am I the only one that those don't add up to?
Refer to like the hardscaping?
Yeah. The developer presented 20-foot wide driveways, but staff, you said they were going to be 18-foot wide? And then the percentages there don't match up with 70 versus 59 feet. So I just wanted some clarification on that.
Yes, so, and the developer can correct me if I'm wrong, they have 16-foot wide garage doors. The intent is to have an 18-foot wide driveway. And when I talked to the applicant on the 20 feet they were requesting, it just gives them a little bit of wiggle room, because this is right at the access point where it meets the right-of-way, the street right-of-way. And so then their proposal is to just kind of remove the 15% maximum requirement and leave the 20-foot.
Okay.
And for deviation 2, that's in regards to the actual hardscape amount. So that's the front yard. What percent of the area can be covered by concrete or hardscape rather than grass?
Okay. That's all. Those are the questions I asked.
I just have a question to staff about the square footage. I understand that for duplexes, the minimum is 10,000. I guess this one, it's only 8,000 something.
Yes.
I was just wondering why we agreed to, I know this is, I don't remember call this one? It's compact. I just want some clarification why the city would, you know, would accept such a smaller, you know, the residents and people usually complain about the square footage is getting smaller and smaller, and then we decided to go with duplex compact, which it's even smaller than the minimum required. I'm just wondering, is this the trend or lots are getting smaller?
So, from the code aspect, there are two different sizes that the Gardner Municipal Code has. It's duplex, which is a 10,000 square foot minimum, and then duplex compact, which is 6,000 minimum. Under the 10,000 regular duplex, that's allowed in R2 and higher zoning. Duplex compact has to be the R4. And so they're proposing about 7,500 square foot lots, which then, because it's under 10,000, requires the duplex compact lot size. As for why they chose 7,500 versus 10,000, that's a question for the developer.
I was just curious. I mean, we were squeezing, getting smaller and smaller. I'm just wondering, is this something that you guys seeing nationwide, or is it it's just a trend, or I don't know, just curious.
Yeah, so the reason and kind of discussion as we kind of walk through the code and allowances on that side of it is the tendency in these users is that the yard specifically around the unit is not necessarily where they're going to go do any of the activities. So if you create the amenity space, like the trail and the center corridor that we find that we have a better community when you have the opportunity to kind of come and participate there together. So as the trade-off is the yard around the house where you have to do maintenance, where typically in something you only own a half or have half of a unit on that side of it, is that community space can be a larger space where you can actually have, you know, a soccer game or throw the baseball a little bit better than you can on some of these yards when they're just so near each other on that side of it. So as we looked through it and found the code allowance of the duplex compact, it allowed the opportunity for us to push some of the lots tighter together around the lot, the building itself, but again, create kind of this, what we believe more of community nature with the amenity on the southwest and the trail kind of through the middle that kind of ties everyone together is the idea. So it is something that we are doing more and more on projects because we're finding people are concerning themselves less of having land or ground and more amenities is the idea. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question? Yeah. One of the other deviations was to come in lower on the community space. Deviation 5, the open space.
So,
It's only 11% versus the required 15%.
yeah, and so then that goes to the code. Your code has a requirement when you switch up and do the compact, it increases the amount of green space. And so to counteract that idea, the idea was we added additional amenities within the green space where we've added the sports court, added the trails, and then added in a couple of those shade structures on the interior side of it. So,
Okay, so staff, does the trail and the covered shade providing areas and the pickleball court count against the green space requirement, like the 15%?
No, it doesn't. To Matt's point, if this were I believe the R2 zoning, they'd have a 10% requirement, but since they're the R4, it bumps it up to 15%. So they're at 11%, and so it's more than the requirement for the R2, but less than the R4. And so that's where the amenities they're proposing, from staff's perspective, we think is sufficient justification for the deviation request.
So could we see the table from your presentation that showed the various zoning and requirements, and then I believe across the bottom were averages?
So yeah, I tried to average as best I could. So like on all the areas and pieces of it, I took the tops and the bottoms. Jesse had given you, I think, the minimums that we have on any side of it, so we've kind of given it to you. Let's see. If I don't have it clicked right here. So yeah, so what I did, so where Jesse was commenting that like 7,500 square foot, that's our absolute minimum lot we have.
Yeah.
If you average out all of our lots, 8,200 square foot. And so, like I say, we kind of fit in a middle ground between both of them and tried to find what we thought were the most reasonable aspects of both of them that we thought made sense to kind of create the development. Is kind of how we made the layout. So yeah, what we tried to demonstrate is that minimum lot size in ours is 8,221. Our minimum lot width is 70 feet. Our minimum building coverage is 47%. The front is 25 feet. The side yards are 5 foot. Corner side yards are 10 foot. The rear is 25, and then the building height, I think actually that's a misprint. We should be 35 foot, which would meet your code for the duplex and duplex compact on that side.
And one more request, I think it's just a few slides later. It's the layout of each deviation that the applicant had. Yes, that one.
And so this one, I tried to do just a typical lot and try to show them all as far as where they would go.
Yeah. No, so first off, this level of detail is quite helpful. I would just say thank you and good work. Thanks for bringing that back up, staff. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you. Tract A is a stormwater retention pond.
Yep.
Is that gonna be a dry pond or is that gonna be a wet pond?
Dry basin.
Dry basin? Okay.
Yes.
The second question is, from one of your first slides, you showed you have it from buying until maintaining. Is this one that you're gonna stay as the owner and maintainer of the properties? Are you planning on selling it? Or?
This one will be sold to a builder to come in and build the duplexes. Correct.
So the duplexes themselves will be owned by the occupants or owned, they'll be rented?
For sale, yep.
Okay, so
Correct. Yes,
the
for sale.
duplexes are for sale, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
No, I do have maybe just a point of clarification. So saw the two entrances, very clear on that. The narrow corridor section, could you talk a little bit about what's going to happen with that?
Yeah, so
That
so
means-
to the neighbor's point, the access point will be off 167th only. There is a half right of way that appears it would have been a half right of way that goes east out to Gardner Road.
Yes.
Our intention on the preliminary plat is we're creating a tract for that piece of ground. And to whomever purchases, develops, or does anything to the east and south or the east and north, that ground would be available to sell to them or give to them or however it would be. We have no intentions to do anything with that ground other than clean up whatever this odd shape was that got created.
So just so that I'm clear, eventually, obviously at the point of sale, that narrow corridor will be purchased is what you're saying. And
Yeah, we're going to create it into a tract, and so then it just becomes it's a pretty useless piece to us, and it could likely be useless to anybody else, but it only makes sense for whomever is developing south or north of there.
Right.
So I don't want to give away the developer's position on it, but I think that there's not much value in it for them either. I think it'd be a preference to find whomever wants to develop and take that over to do something with it more appropriately than keep a 12-foot sliver.
And so you just answered my other question. The final one is just, I know this is the third time, but it's not your intent to keep and maintain that. Obviously, it is to sell it once.
Right, the intent would be for it to go away.
Okay. Yeah, no other questions. Thanks.
I have no questions at this time.
Can we go to the landscaping plan? Or I don't know if you had. I know that's typically like a final development thing, right? I've heard pickleball courts can be noisy in neighborhoods. I guess what kind of like fencing or shrubbery, or I guess do we need to look at adding? Did you look at that?
So
there's some lots that are pretty close there.
Yeah, so I think that we are keeping the description. I know we call it pickleball court, and that likely could be it, or it could be a sports court that could be convertible into different couple of uses on that side of it. But yes, we are also hearing as time goes on that we'll continue to evaluate whether that's the right court type for that location. Some type of an activity court will be there, in our opinion. But yeah, if the pickleball is there, the things we have used is they have some low netting that can go on the fences that will help to keep some of the sound down. It won't end all of it. Additional landscaping on that residential side will help to do some of it. But yeah, we're going to evaluate the final decision on that one of what it'll be. But something, yeah, I agree with you. We're hearing more and more as developments keep going on. Everybody loves pickleball, but nobody wants it in their backyard for sure.
Yeah, that's what that was going to be my comments, I guess,
Yes.
for the final look at maybe like some more landscaping there.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Along those lots there. Another question I had was regarding the power. I guess 2 questions. First, the hatched area, kind of along the south and the southeast corner, is that the additional 10-foot of dedicated right-of-way?
Yeah, correct. So the hatch on the south side is the additional 10-foot of right-of-way that we're providing to the city for the future redevelopment or development of 167th. And then on the east side, that kind of little shaped thing is the future access point that will go on to the property to the east whenever and however that ends up developing, giving an option there.
Okay. Perfect. And then regarding the power line, was there title work done? I didn't see an easement plotted for that power line. I just saw there was kind of the typical, platted utility easement there on the back of the lots.
Right, and there will right now on that south side of our site, there's a force main down in there that we're still working on some pieces to make sure that we've got all the easements and portions shown, but we've created easements just in case something doesn't get covered. The power lines on the south side are in the right of way, but and we've talked to staff about that, anything get needed to the north, and we'll continue to evaluate where that might need to go on that side. But currently, yeah, we've shown an easement on the south side just to protect it, but we haven't found one specifically for it yet that needs anything, but if needed, we'll help out.
Just want to make sure it wasn't going to overlap any proposed building footprints or anything like that.
Yep, no, it's outside of that for sure.
That was all the questions I had.
Good to you.
Yes.
I have a staff question, and I'm sorry. I know we talk about this, it seems like every time. Preliminary versus final plat. We approve both of those, not recommend, in terms of the motion that we may make?
That's correct. You approve both the preliminary and the final plats.
Okay.
The dedication of right-of-way and easements on final plat is accepted by council. So they're not acting on the plat itself, they're accepting the right-of-way and
Okay.
easements.
All right, thank you.
Would you mind changing the slides to the suggested motion slides? Sounds like.
I'll make a motion. Oh, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the rezoning and associated preliminary development plan to rezone 17.9 acres from RP2 Plan 2-Family Residential District to RP4 Plan Mixed Density Residential District, with the deviations as outlined in the staff report, subject to the following conditions, items listed 1 through 3.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Combs and a second by Commissioner Berger. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
And I'll make a motion for the preliminary plat. Planning Commission approves the preliminary plat, subject to the following condition. Item number 1 is listed in the staff report.
And second.
Another motion by Commissioner Combs and second by Commissioner Berg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
This
Okay.
item will be considered by council, the rezoning preliminary development plan, February 16th. That's our next meeting, is the 16th.
Thank you, Maggie. Moving to regular agenda item number 3, New Trails North, third plat, rezoning from C3 to CP3, preliminary development plan and final development plan, and this is also a public hearing item. Is the applicant present tonight?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. Jeff Skidmore with Schlegel and Associates, 14920 West 107th Street, Lenexa, Kansas. Here on behalf of the owner developers this evening and making the application for this next piece of what is the New Trails Development Commercial Center at the southeast corner of 175th and I-35, essentially the exit ramps there. There's one piece that's already in place, the convenience store, the Phillips 66 store that's there and functioning now. Brought that to you a couple years ago and pleased to bring this next piece. This is a 128 unit hotel, co-branded hotel unit on about a 3-acre tract of land, roughly centrally located within the development. It's not a frontage on 175th Street. It actually fronts on what is New Trails Circle, which is a private drive that was developed as part of the original infrastructure out there to kind of establish the grounds and get things moving. The proposed hotel has access off of that New Trails Circle, again off of that private drive, one to the north and one somewhat to the southwest corner there, near the intersection of New Trails Parkway and New Trails Circle. I'm trying to keep my street straight there. It's not always easy. It is co-branded, a 4-story, 128 unit hotel. 4-sided architecture. Obviously, we'll have a nice presence from the highway, or would like to have the nice presence from the highway, and also then serve internal to the development and the area that's being developed there. The part of the CP3 zoning, we're obviously going from a C3 to a CP3. The hotel use is allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, in either one of those. I think getting it to the CP3 just gives us a little more flexibility to work with staff, and staff some flexibility to work with us on what we're doing and how we're proposing the site. We do have one small deviation, or what we consider a small deviation that we're requesting, excuse me, as part of this approval. It's the code requires 8 foot of space between the back of the curb and the building, or 8 feet of space beyond the back of the curb. The code typically wants it to be concrete or a concrete sidewalk through there. What we're proposing is to put a 5-foot sidewalk at the back of the curb and then have some landscaping between. So we're providing the 8 foot that's required. We're proposing to put a 5-foot sidewalk there, have 3 foot of landscaping that'll hopefully soften the aesthetics up against the building and give us a little more presentation of our building from the parking lot itself. Other than that, I just want to extend my thanks to staff. They've been great to work with to getting us to this point. Greatly appreciate all their work that they've done and their assistance that they've provided for us. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We are in agreement with the staff stipulations and the staff report, and be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Staff presentation.
Good evening. All right. Thank you. Again, this is item 3, rezoning, preliminary and final development plan for a dual brand hotel. As the aerial depicts, the application for you today, again, is for those 3 applications, and are specifically for, again, the new 4-story, 128-room dual brand hotel. Let's see, the property is approximately 3.2 acres and is part of the New Trail North commercial development. The hotel was part of the original rezoning plan that went before you and the council that was adopted back in the 2020. To the north is vacant commercial ground and a convenience store. To the east and south is vacant commercial and is adjacent to the Southern Star natural gas pipeline. This development will need an encroachment agreement in order to have their south parking lot and possible cross access with the land to the south. And this will be a condition of the approval. And of course, to the west is I-35. The dual brand hotel chains that make up those applications are Staybridge and Holiday Inn Express hotels. The proposed hotel is totaling approximately 23,000 square feet and will consist of, again, 28 rooms. And on the landscape plan, shown to provide the minimum required landscape plant materials to be installed on the site per the land development code. They have added additional planting materials to help break up the large amount of parking on the site. And I do apologize, this is a pretty good sized site and it's a little rough to see all the landscape materials, but they have concentrated landscaping along the perimeter of the site to screen their parking areas and mechanics, especially on the New Trails Circle side of the property. This is the west elevation of the 4-story hotel, and which is also considered the backside of the structure. Elevations, this is the north and south exterior elevations. The north elevation, which will be most visible from 175th Street. Yeah, which they've also provided a lot more variations in the colors and materials along that north side because of the visibility. And then the south elevation, which is the main entrance of the hotel. As you can see from the elevations, the developer has broken up the long walls with offsets and different materials and colors. The main construction materials along all facades are color ephes, stone, and brick. Staff findings that this property is consistent with the character of the area, and the proposed plan is in line with other recent developments to the I-35 and 175th Street sub-area plan. The architecture and building design along the overall final development plan are in substantial compliance with the code. And as Jeff mentioned, they do have one deviation request. I think he described that in great detail. And staff recommendation. If you guys have any questions, I'm available.
Wait till the public hearing, I think.
Oh, yes.
Had it and closed it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So.
I remember there was a gentleman here.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, he's not present tonight.
Do you have any pictures, let's say if you're driving 175th and you look to the side, I'm just wondering what you're gonna see. You're gonna see the hotel faces this way, because everybody complains about statics, you're driving, then you see that hotel there. I'm
Right,
just wondering how, from your perspective, driving 175th, how you gonna, I don't know, because you see this, but you can't tell how.
Yeah, it's. Let me go back to the aerial real quick.
Yeah. So.
So you'll be able to see more of it from the off ramp and the on ramps to I-35, as you can see from.
So the
from the aerial.
175th, you're gonna see the side a little.
175th, you'll see that north side that I was talking about earlier, but also you'll have to also realize that there will be probably 4 other commercial uses out in front of this that are closer to 175th Street than just a hotel.
Yeah.
And we really worked on them quite a bit with the landscaping to kind of, one, screen the parking, two, screen the mechanics, kind of give a little bit more character from the public realm.
Forgot about the 4 lots that are in front there, so you're not
Yeah.
gonna be seen from the, but from the ramp, you're gonna see the hotel from the ramp.
Yeah.
The entrance has to look like from here. Sorry, so this week, that entire photo, you just, you know.
I'll reserve my comments. I'll keep them to myself about
And am I
our.
interpreting the design correctly? The entrance is on the east side, facing east, so it'll be kind of blocked from view.
I think that'd be a good question for the applicant's engineer. Maybe he can speak to that. That was one of my questions too. It seems backwards from what I've thought.
Okay, that's why, maybe I confused you, because I was like, I'm just curious how it's gonna look like from.
Yeah. We were a little confused as well, but I think they're wanting that front view from New Trails Parkway, which is going to be a major road through both, not only this commercial side, which is all along the west side of New Trails Parkway, whereas the east side is the residential.
And this may be a very silly question, but just confirmation on the landscape with the 5-foot sidewalk versus the 8. The 3-foot buffer that we're talking about, that's in between the building and the sidewalk, correct?
That is correct.
Is that consistent around the whole building or just the spot where the landscape is designated here up against the building?
It's that east side. They don't have any parking along the west side of the structure, but they still have the drive lanes. So it looks like a lot of the parking will be facing out towards the New Trails circle on the west side.
Is staff or the applicant, have you had any conversations with Southern Star about that encroachment agreement? I mean, it seems like putting in a storm sewer, less than 10 feet away from the center easement might be a little.
We have had conversations
Okay.
with them. We've got a draft agreement in place. They typically want our final construction documents before they make that final agreement. We've worked with them. We had to work with them with the convenience store as well. So those are in place. And again, the finals will be a part of our building permit package that we submit to the city as a condition of our permit approval. So yes, we have initiated those conversations with them.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the commission?
Question for staff, we're looking at 2 motions again?
Yes. And it's the same in terms of the preliminary development plan runs with the rezoning to the council where you're
Yes.
making recommendation in the final development plan or taking action. I also just want to note, you may have seen between the conditions from the November meeting and the conditions that were presented in the one-page report in tonight's meeting, there was some slight modification related to the gas easement. It wasn't adding conditions, it was when do we need what based on the type of potential encroachment. I think that is an issue.
Good?
Good.
I'll make a motion. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the rezoning and associated preliminary development plan with the deviation as requested to rezone 3.2 acres from C3 Heavy Commercial District to CP3 Planned Heavy Commercial District for a new dual brand hotel subject to the following conditions. Items listed 1 through 3 in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Combs and a second by Commissioner Alucci. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, and then the final development plan.
I'll make a motion. So the Planning Commission approves the final development plan subject to the following conditions. Items 1 and 2 listed in the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Souza. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Also carries 7-0. Okay. Moving on, or I guess, like you said, this item will go to City Council on February 16th, okay, for the rezoning portion.
Also has to go to council. That's
Yes.
within a mile of the airport.
Yes, they would also have to take this to the airport commission or the county. That was one of the conditions.
Regular agenda item number 4, Warren Place Event Center. This is a revised final development plan. Is the applicant here for a presentation? Just please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Rayleigh DeYoung, 16813 Stearns, Overland Park. I am the owner of Warren Place Venue and chair of the Gardner Downtown Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you first to the commissioners for your time this evening. Thank you also to the staff for all of their assistance with this on the back end. I will very briefly walk through the proposed pavilion for the East Lawn, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So here is an overview of our property for orientation with that East Lawn highlighted. The site overview for the pavilion, as well as our landscape approach, including emerald green arborvitae, used to provide a soft privacy screen. This rendering illustrates the scale and character of the pavilion as proposed. I told you I would be very brief, so I'll finish up by highlighting a few context points from our leadership side. Landscape screening elements on the east lawn of the chapel were approved as part of our 2019 final development plan. Those approved elements inform the design approach proposed here. Since opening in 2020, we've seen client preference for ceremonies actually move toward the east lawn of the Warren, and the pavilion is simply a way to support that existing pattern with a permanent structure. This project supports our long-term stewardship of the property and reflects continued private investment in downtown Gardner. Construction is planned with a Gardner-based contractor, Kevin Kramer Construction. I know much of this is already covered in the staff report and packet, so before I turn it over to them, I'll pause if anybody has any questions. Sure. Thank you.
I'm going to be brief too as well. So again, this is item 4, a revised final development plan for Warren Place Event Center. And just like what Ray Lee showed, here's a copy of the aerial. The application before you today is a revised final development plan and are specifically for an additional accessory building to be located on the Warren Place Event Center on the east side of the property. Warren Place Event Center was granted final development plan back in 2019. The event center owner would like to add an additional outdoor structure for events, weddings, etc. along the east side. And this slide here kind of shows the overall approved final development plan. with the addition as shown in the bottom right-hand corner of this property. And again, it's for an accessory building and gazebo or / gazebo. And this slide shows the close-up of how that pad and sidewalk are to be constructed along that lawn area. They also added, again, the solid evergreen landscape. They have also added additional planting materials to help shield the gazebo from Elm Street and the adjacent parking along the street. This drawing shows the rectangular yellow shaded area is a 15-foot by 30-foot pad for that accessory structure. And then, of course, a sidewalk leading to the main entrance of the easternmost building on the site. This is the overall elevations for that structure. Staff findings: the proposed gazebo complies with the standards for accessory buildings. The design and arrangement of the building is consistent with good planning and landscape design. The architecture and building design uses quality materials, and the style is appropriate for context. The plan is in substantial compliance with the code.
I have a question. So, due to the size and because this is an accessory building, is that why it comes through this process?
So we had a little bit of debate on this one, and yes, it kind of is the size of that, and then also it was part of an approved development plan, which is why the decision was made to go ahead and have them bring this in for a revised final development plan.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I've been to several events at your place. It's real nice. I just have a question. As far as parking, because I guess we park over there. Where are you going to place the gazebo? So what are you going to do with parking?
Well, again, this gazebo is going on the lawn area, so that should not affect any parking at all, or in or around the site.
That's my
I'd be shocked. My question's gonna be for the applicant, and it's gonna be one that's gonna be raised, so we might as well start it now. What kind of controls are gonna be in place for an outside venue like this? Because you have residents to the east, you have residents to the south. There's gonna be time limits for outdoor, celebrations, music, because that's gonna come up.
Sure. So the pavilion itself will have no material impact on the way that we structure events, on current use. We have had outdoor ceremonies out there since 2020, so as far as operations, the pavilion won't affect what we've been doing.
Will you have a PA system, or have you used that?
So in use, we typically have DJs bring their own equipment, so we don't have our own equipment on the outdoor space, any of the outdoor spaces actually, just inside, and we do have a cutoff at 11 p.m.
And so may I ask, it sounds like you probably do, but you currently, minus the weather that we're seeing when it's appropriate, you do have outside events, or have had them already in the past?
Yes. Yep.
And those were with the DJs that you mentioned?
Correct. I was going to plug ceremony pictures, but for this environment, hit or miss. So, yes, we have had a number of outdoor wedding ceremonies, including those with PA systems brought by DJs.
And I personally have not heard a single complaint. I'm not suggesting that there never has been, but Has there
Personally, I
been?
haven't gotten a phone call since 2020. We had 2 neighbors call us initially. Since then, we have also brought up our cutoff from midnight to 11 p.m. But no, I have not received a call since 2020.
Any event that involves alcohol has to have some type of security presence, correct?
Yes, if it is a cash bar or ticketed event, then we require Gardner PD security. Other than that, licensed bartender.
And this is my final question.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it's to you, but in the rendering, it shows the existing building to remain, and then the proposed building addition is listed here. Is that whole area the green space that we're talking about, or why is that wording there?
There's a match line.
Yeah.
That proposed building addition is there. And then when you look down to the picture below, you'll see that same match line. And so, does that help?
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
It was, the drawing was too big for the page.
Yes, okay, so this really narrow spot in the big picture is obviously the green space that we're talking about. Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Any more questions? Or think, I'm prepared to hear a motion on this.
Yeah. I'll make a motion. So, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the revised final development plan for the Warren Place Event Center gazebo.
It is approved.
Oh, this is
Planning
a-
Commission, yeah. It's an RO.
Oh my gosh, so sorry. Let's do this over.
And there's no conditions.
The Planning Commission approves the revised final development plan for the Warren Place Event Center gazebo.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Berg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, item number 5, Land Development Code Amendment. This is also a public hearing item.
Full house.
Yes.
So we came to you in November with some proposed changes to chapters 1 through 3 of Title 17. And since then, we've actually made a few more changes. And I wanted to go through those. I provided the staff report from November, and so I didn't want to reiterate those recommendations. But to make the point of, in Chapter 1 of Title 17, we were clarifying the options for zoning after property is annexed. There's a section in the nonconformities portion of the code that addresses nonconformities based on annexation. And as you may be aware, oftentimes when property is voluntarily annexed, which is the majority of the annexations that we see, they are maintaining the existing county zoning until they're actually ready to develop. There's pros and cons to that. We can get into that another time. We can make that work, but obviously when they are proposing development, they have to rezone the property. So that's the biggest change, if you will, in Chapter 1. In Chapter 2, we modified a few of the existing definitions. Parking block was modified more to explain how it's used, how it's enforced, in terms of, depending on the number of parking spaces in the block, there's different setbacks and/or buffer landscaping requirements. Then on the other 4, which are plant-related, we looked at either the height of the tree or shrub, and/or we removed the reference to deciduous because you can obviously have evergreens, and we didn't want to just keep creating definitions for evergreen versus deciduous, blah, blah. Then the last few changes were to Chapter 3, and the only application, final development plan, did not require a pre-application. So for consistency, we added that as a requirement. However, the director can always waive that requirement. So we don't feel like that's making it too difficult for developers. It's just more from a consistency standpoint. Thinking about the changes in technology and communication, we are proposing to change wording from official city newspaper to official city publication. And then lastly, the area that we actually sort of flip-flopped a little bit relates to the time frame for which plats and plans are effective or valid. We were originally proposing in November that we have one consistent time frame for all of those. We actually are going backwards a little bit and being consistent with respect to preliminary plat and development plan, moving that to 1 year with a potential 1 year extension. And then in final plats, we are keeping that at the 2 years for it to be recorded. And then the final development plan, maintaining that existing time frame of 2 years with a 1 year extension. And I would tell you I had a typo in the table in the staff report because the final development plan, both currently and proposed, are allowed a 1 year extension. So those are the changes that we are proposing in addition to the ones that we talked about and reviewed in November. We obviously have to have a public hearing for this. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them. If there's anything that you're not comfortable with and you'd like us to do more digging on, happy to do that as well, and we can continue the item. So with that.
I will now open the public hearing. I will now accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Questions from the commission?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going from 18 months to 12 months on a preliminary plan?
The concern that we've had, and this is where I'll say we've flip-flopped a little bit, is if you're not acting on that preliminary plat in a timely manner, we don't want them hanging out there. I did look at the regulations for some of our surrounding communities, and they run the gamut in terms of the preliminary plat and preliminary development plan. Some are 2 years, some don't have any requirement for timing. Some just say that they must file it with the Register of Deeds, which was interesting because we don't require that on the preliminaries, but we do on a final plat. And then on the preliminary plats, they ranged from 1 to 2 years. And so we were thinking, how long do we want to keep things out there that maybe the applicant actually isn't going to act on? And there's obviously the opportunity for an extension. Probably the biggest change you can see is we're still maintaining with the preliminary development plan a 2-year total, but it's now broken up. And then the preliminary plat is slightly less by 6 months. So.
Crystal Point.
With what?
Crystal Point. That, what it was called at 135th and Waverly.
Waverly Plaza.
Well, yeah, it was one of those. It's changed names so many times. It just Now, do we reach out to these people and say, hey, you reach a year?
In the past, we have not. Again, that's something that there's differing opinions on. On the one hand, we can. Do we reach out to the design professional, the property owner, or the developer? On the other hand, if they wanted to develop, they should know what their timeframes are. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I like having it defined and having dates on it, because it's kind of like all right, we're gonna start this process.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta be ready.
And there's always, if they end up not complying with the timeframes, the process is what we call starting over. And in that case, it's the same, they could potentially be submitting the same application that they originally had. It's more of a matter of have our regulations changed, and therefore we would have different requirements. That's what we would want to avoid. One of the communities allows your preliminary, and I don't recall if it was plat or development plan, for 7 years. And we were like, whoa, that's a long time to potentially have something out there.
So, like, practically speaking, like, in the consent agenda, there was the request for the 1-year extension. I think that's on the final development plan for Flint Trails.
Right.
And so then.
Their plat is still valid for a couple more months.
Right. So 1 year from now that goes by, they don't act on it, then they would have to go back and redo, not the rezoning, but the final development plan and the final plat, or just.
If they do not record the plat, and I think it's July, I don't recall, we'll just say that for practical purposes, then they would have to come back with their plat for sure. If they do not move forward with building permits before the final development plan a year from now, then they would have to come back as well.
And procedurally, through each stage of these application types, is it the approval date by the governing body or by the commission that those now 1 year, 2 year time periods start?
If it requires council approval, then it's the council date. If it does not, for example, the preliminary plat, it would be when you all act on it.
Okay.
And usually they're a month-ish, 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
So,
I was just curious, is there any fees that the applicant has to pay every time there's an extension, or if I start over? I'm just curious.
we currently do not have an application fee for the extension request. Obviously, for all of these applications, we do. So,
Yeah, I don't think we're being too onerous with these. It seems reasonable to me.
and we had this discussion earlier today among staff, and so I was starting to look, and it wasn't as easy as I'd hoped, but I was starting to look at what some of those dates were in terms of which developments, specifically on the residential side, may have come into an issue in terms of 18 months versus 1 year. I don't have that information to present today, but it wasn't anything that just jumped out like, oh, none of these would have been satisfactory. So.
Someone like to make a motion?
The Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the proposed amendments to Chapter 17.01 and 17.02 and 17.03 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olucci with a second by Commissioner Combs. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, election of officers.
Yes, you may recall that we moved our election date to be in compliance with the code. So it's the first regular meeting of the calendar year. For a variety of reasons, the election last year was much later, but we explicitly stated that the term would be through the end of January of 2026. The Gardner Municipal Code states that no member shall serve for more than 2 consecutive terms as an officer. So unfortunately, that means that Chairman Juniman has to take at least a 1-year break from being vice chairman or chairman. Matt Combs can continue to run if he decides to in terms of for vice chairman or chairman. And congratulations, you did get reappointed last council meeting for another 3-year term. So we do have him longer. With that, we'd open the floor for volunteers or nominations for the chairman position.
All right. So first of all, I would like to thank Chairman June for his service to the city and to the commission. And I would like to nominate Commissioner Combs for chairman.
Okay.
I second that.
Anyone else?
Do a vote, or is there, I guess, yeah, other nominations.
No other volunteers or voluntold? Okay, well, we can then vote on the chairman position. All in favor of Matt Combs?
Aye.
Great. Congratulations.
I know. I need to be. So my current position, we're gonna need to vote for that now.
Yep.
right?
So now we would open for nominations or volunteers for the vice chairman position. And these both will be 1-year terms. We'll have another election in January 27. Don't all jump at
I was
once.
going to nominate Commissioner Berg for vice chair position.
I nominate Commissioner Berg as well.
Anyone else? Then if, like to take a vote on the vice chairman, Commissioner Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
I'll stay.
I think what you're saying is Commissioner Combs cannot be absent.
Yes.
Thank you. The last item, it's 8:20. We can talk about the comprehensive plan, or we can push it to another meeting. At this point, we do not have a meeting in February because we had no applications submitted, right? Nothing squeaked in. So that's up to you. Either way, we're going to be, staff has started a review of the comprehensive plan as part of our annual review, and we'll be coming to you in the future with information, so a little bit about like what I would call a where are we now development and review, and some proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan, specifically related to our future land use designations, and an update on where we are in some of the implementation goals, objectives type portion of it, if you will. So
Is it the 10-year plan? Is that the one?
it's actually longer than 10 years. It's usually about 20, and we're halfway through it. Yes. So it's up to
And
you.
if we do it tonight, how long is it going to take?
My part will be 10 minutes max. It's up to you how long you want to talk about it. But there's not, I'm not getting into the meat of it. It's more, what is the comprehensive plan? Why do we have it? Where are we? How do we use it? It's more of an introduction because we have several new members and we haven't talked about it on a regular basis. So.
What do you guys think?
I'll put you on a timer for 10 minutes.
That's fine.
Starting now.
Let me see if I can beat it then. So, thank you. So,
As part of staff's role, we are continuing to provide information related to the development of processes and topic-specific presentations, and that's why we're bringing this to you this evening. In the interest of time, I won't read all of these slides. If you want me to send them out to you later, that's fine. If not, I don't care. But a comprehensive plan is just that. In the case of the city of Gardner, it's inclusive and wide-ranging, if that's a word. I like to describe it as the pieces of a puzzle coming together to create a vision or picture for the future of Gardner. And it's really supposed to be visionary, future thinking. Now, sometimes when we say those things, you can think of a plan that you can take from somewhere else and, hey, those goals look good for us. Not always the best, but if you dig down deeper into those objectives and what you really want to accomplish, that's where it gets more specific to each community. Why do we have a comprehensive plan? Well, the easy answer is state law requires it. So we have a plan that we work on every 20 years. We do have some small area plans that we incorporate into the comprehensive plan. For example, the I-35 and 175th sub-area, and then the I-35 and Gardner Road. We consider past and present conditions. It's not just a land use plan. I try to remind the other departments that it also relates to our natural resources, public facilities, services, the intensity or density of building, and transportation. So you'll see in most comprehensive plans a major thoroughfare plan, for example, and we incorporate the Parks and Rec master plan and their future ideas. So as I mentioned, the comprehensive plan includes a vision statement. It has goals and objectives, talks about existing conditions. What everyone likes to look at is the future land use map, and we use that with every rezoning in terms of, is it consistent or is it not? And if it's not, that's okay, but why isn't it? And then we also have an implementation plan, and that's where staff has been focusing in terms of, hey, it's been a little more than 10 years. How are we doing? So how is the comprehensive plan useful? It provides information related to population growth. It considers all aspects of the community, like I said before, in terms of housing, land use, the environment. We talk about maybe some areas are not good for development because they are in a floodplain, for example. And then it also influences the zoning regulations as well as other parts of the municipal code. So it's the guide that then we use to potentially amend our rules, which is the zoning code. And the zoning regulations are not a guide. They are something that's required. We have an internal joke, I'm sorry. Some people is like, oh yeah, that's just a recommendation, is what they say. So how are we doing? What we've been doing internally, again, is we started looking at what's changed, specifically in the last 5 years, and then are the goals still applicable? There's some comments from the public input portion of the comprehensive plan of ideas and recommendations of things that need to be improved. And so we've been going through them and saying, do we feel we've accomplished this? Or are we still working on it? Or, oh, we forgot about that one and we need to get on it. And then also that not only just with their opinions, if you will, but also with specific projects. For example, in 2014, one of the projects was improving the police station. Well, we can check that one off the list because we now have a very nice police public safety building. What? Okay, tried to pull some information in terms of how we've changed since this was put together, and at that time they were using 2013 information. Not sure exactly where it came from, but we are looking at the American Community Survey, which is what ACS is. 2023 is the last one that's available, and then we obviously always look at the 10-year census. So you can see how our population has grown, how our median age really hasn't changed, education levels, median home value, household income, and really our population density per square mile did not have that in 2013, but it really hasn't changed drastically in 3 years. I would also tell you that we increased in 12 years now almost 3,000 acres in size. We have annexed. I did not provide the land use percentage breakdown from 2013, even though it was in the comprehensive plan, because when we were looking at it, we were saying, okay, we're not sure how they got their descriptions, so we just took what is it today. And I tell you this because when we looked at their 2013 percentages, while we're not exactly sure what they included, residential percentage is almost identical from 2013 to 2025. The largest land use percentage in 2013 was also agricultural. If you combine the public, semi-public, and parks and open space, the percentage is almost identical to 2013. And commercial land use continues to outpace the industrial. There's no magic numbers in terms of what percentage of the city should be any of these land uses. Each community is different. We have talked about Gardner being, we're not going to be a big employment center, but we've got a lot of employment centers around us. So we are looking at providing some of the housing for that, for example. So I provide that to you just as a point of interest. Next month or in March, I've got some information on the development trends that we've seen specifically in the last couple of years that we are finalizing. And we'll also give you an update of how we think we've done in terms of implementation. The last couple of slides, this is straight from our comprehensive plan. It said in the year 2035, so 9 years from now, we want to be a thriving community, broad range of housing options, have quality housing and great schools, be a business-friendly environment. We want people to not only live in Gardner, but visit its attractions. That sounds lovely, and it's all good. And probably most communities want something similar to that for their community. The goals break it down a little bit more in terms of how it would be unique. We're talking about quality construction and design, and that's where we get into some of our design standards, especially on the smaller lots. Commercial character in terms of local businesses and pedestrian-oriented commercial nodes in terms of people being able to walk potentially. We obviously always want to have high quality and dependable public services and facilities. And at the bottom here, I put, you've got your vision that you then sort of clarify with some goals, and then you break it down into objectives of how you're going to then implement it. So with that, questions, comments, or discussion? How'd I do?
Oh, we forgot to start.
I what? Oh, okay, good. So any questions or things that you would like to know more about updating the comprehensive plan? We're not going to be amending it or updating it every year, but yes, we will be looking at it and we will be bringing to you what we saw in terms of trends. So anyway.
Just random question. Does everyone get in a room, just bounce ideas off of each other, and of course looking at sort of the past activity in the city to come up with suggested changes that would then be presented? I mean, just generally, how are those decisions come to?
Well, since we haven't brought you an amendment recently, we're sort of creating it as we go this year. And we've started with the community development staff discussion. What do we see? What are the things that we want to not only provide information to you, but where we see there might be hiccups? We've also had some conversations with the other department heads in terms of how are their long-range plans going? What are they trying to accomplish? How can we work together in terms of, hey, we've got information about valuation, for example, from building permits, and that's important to finance, so they can look at potential property tax and what we might be collecting. The police chief was interested in it from the standpoint of where are we growing and at what density, in order to look at their like patrol what's that? Yes, patrol. Correct, and same thing with Parks and Recreation. So right now it's very fluid. We're not going to be doing a big public input portion this year. Not to say that we won't, but in the future. But we'll probably be looking at what groups can we go out to, and then obviously, as part of any amendment, it's a public hearing, and we would have that available for anyone that wanted to come and speak.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. Thank you.
Question I have, is there any, somebody comes in with a plan, they want to develop, whether it's the, a couple months ago, we had the Four Corners LLC, now we have this Magnolia Fields. Is there anything that you look at it and you say, you're proposing this type of development in this area, we don't feel that that's correct use of that land or correct development for that area, we would rather have you move that kind of building to this area, or is that done?
I would say we've had those conversations. We tell them this is what the future land use plan calls out for that area, but here's how the area's changed. And that came up a little with Magnolia Fields tonight, because our future land use map referenced it as low-density residential. What's going on around it? Has the character changed? What other, and then that's just one of the criteria that you all use when rezoning, so it doesn't have to always match. But if it doesn't, you sort of have to ask yourself, is it valid? Should we allow this anyway because there's positive reasons for it? Is that sort of what you're thinking? Or?
I think so. Part of my thought process in this is I know, and I don't know the name, I think it's Copper Creek, that is north of the police station, north of the out to Copper Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a mix, right? Because at the front of it you have apartment buildings, and then you have duplexes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have single-family homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot, especially the police officers that I know, they don't like apartment buildings next to single-family homes. And that's kind of the thought process there. The question is, you know, if as a developer, if I come to the city and I say, hey, I want to put an apartment building in, and I want to put it in, say, next here to Magnolia Fields in that area. I own the land, I'm the developer, I want to put that there, and I come to you and here's my plan, then does the city, the planning commission, push back and say, that's not an acceptable use of that land there?
You could, yes. And I say that because obviously in our code, we have some requirements for screening and buffering and those types of things. But if you don't think it's an appropriate mix or adjacency, sort of like when we had the private school proposing to go adjacent to industrial. Some people thought that was acceptable and some people didn't. And that's a fair conversation. That's why there's multiple criteria when rezoning and looking at development versus you got to meet 5 of the 8 of these, or it's not a math equation, I guess, is how I describe it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think David kind of touched on this before. It's like you still give the people, the applicant, their due process. Like if they want to move forward with it, they've got a plan where they think they're meeting boxes, they can still do that. You know, it doesn't mean those conversations aren't happening.
Right.
Yes.
Please do.
The way these divisions are set up, called European community
Yeah, and one of the things we also look at is whatever these applicants do come in to talk with us, this is why we have our, what we call our discovery meetings. And a lot of times with these discovery meetings, we may be up front with somebody and say, you may have a difficult time getting through. We're not good, just like what you guys mentioned, they still have their due process. They can submit an application. We're not gonna deny them that ability to apply for something. But we will try to warn them up front that, instead of buying the land outright or spending a lot of money on consultants to draw up the plans for them, they might want to think about maybe moving someplace else within the community.
So as an example, kind of to my question and what you're saying, a couple months ago, we had the proposed development along I-35 where they wanted to put the billboards in and they wanted to have the commercial area. And I know when it was presented to us, staff said, recommend disapproval. So as part of your discussions with them prior to that, do you tell them, so they know coming in that you're recommending disapproval and they're still deciding to push through anyway?
Yeah, we recommended, we didn't recommend approval on it. And
Right.
we told them, we tried to work with them on maybe like a little less dense, less intrusive type of development that was happening in or around that area. But what they presented was something that we as a staff could not support, and it's obvious you guys didn't either.
But they knew that coming in, that your recommendation was gonna be to disprove it,
That is correct.
and they decided to give it a shot anyway. Well, I know, but I mean, it isn't that they came in here high hopes and then were
When,
dashed.
when they initially had the meetings with us and we were talking with them, we had concerns that we brought up. Our actual staff recommendation may not be decided until the packets go out. It can go either way. And that was a case
Yeah.
where
They knew our concerns, definitely.
But it wasn't like they initially or immediately applied and we said, we are going to recommend
Right.
denial. That's
Right.
that's
It will not have that wording.
Right.
Like, it won't literally be like, by the way, when you get there, they're gonna say no, because that's against the law. So yeah, I don't know, I doubt that you guys literally say, by the way, but they do know of what the issues are that have been brought up by staff going in, for sure.
Okay,
And we did work with them all along through the design process, the layout, everything that we told them we had concerns with. Unfortunately, they decided to stick with their original plans, and the results were what they were. Yeah.
right.
And that was a interesting one because that was the first time that staff recommended denial. So that was stuck in my mind because you guys always, not always.
Well,
Approving that one was like, okay.
yeah, and again, hopefully by the time it gets before you, that we've had enough discussions with whatever applicant that, hopefully both of us are comfortable with what's presented to you. At the end of the day, though, you guys have the say, and the governing body has the say on what goes in. We just make a recommendation to what has been presented for us. We take a look at the land development code, we look at the comprehensive plan, and we try to work with those applicants from the start to the finish.
Back to the comprehensive amendment plan and like amendment stuff. If I had like a great idea for amending the comprehensive
Denied.
like you guys, like we talked about, like you guys were having discussions internally about stuff you'd like to change. Like what would I do?
I would say if there's things that you're concerned about, send us an email or give us a call. I know in the past we've talked a little bit about some of the design, architectural design, and based on the number of deviations, should we change the code? Now, obviously, that's not something that would go through the comprehensive plan, but we need your perspective, especially if you've been in the community longer than some of us who haven't been here as long.
Send an email, but do not CC everybody else on the email. Just from you.
Thank you. So.
Anything else?
Just make a comment. You know, you live in town and then you go out, you're talking, and of course the people know that you are part of the planning commission, and there was always comments about, oh, you guys are approving too many duplexes, and you guys doing this and that. Is there a place that, I don't know if it's up to you guys to do that, but just kind of in a citywide publication, just kind of break down, you know, it says up 21% residential, kind of, hey, out of the 21% is only 5% are duplex, 7% are, I don't know, single homes, or, you know, just
Yeah, that's a
because
good
there's
point.
a perception out there that
Yeah.
we just approving, we're bringing too many duplexes to Gardner, and I just wondering, I see a lot, I just wanted to see what the breakdown, what do we bring you here, you know?
Well,
What are
I
we
think there's two
approving?
comments that you have in there. One is what's the breakdown of residential, and we can try to do some of that. And then the other one you mentioned was, is there some way we can communicate that to the community? And we'll try. I mean, we will work with our public information officer and maybe get some things in a future newsletter that's distributed to all the residents.
Maybe a piece from, you know, an article from the planning commission. This is what we did in 2025.
Yep.
We approved, I don't know.
And I think
Some-
a lot of there's a perception that the city is the one out there talking to developers saying, bring this.
Yes,
We
there is.
we are the ones out there with a certain restaurant, and we're more reactionary. Yes, we have an economic development side, but it's not out there with specific restaurants, for example. When we talk to residential home builders, we're talking about, we're looking for a mix of housing units. So for new or first-time home buyers to people that are trying to scale down. A common term these days is, I think it's lock and leave or something, where you've got more maintenance provided, or you're renting an apartment because you don't want the maintenance. So that's what we talk a lot to developers about, is a variety of homes. And we have been upfront with several of them about, there's a concern that we're getting too many small lots, and we're getting too many that are slab on grade, and what can you do differently, and have you ever thought about doing alley loaded? And so we try.
So I know
Jump
we're at
in.
the mercy of whomever the developer is that approaches the city. But there have to be, or maybe I should say, are there proactive measures that the city is taking to entice, I shouldn't say certain kinds of development, but development?
I think there's two things, and jump in when you think I'm gone too far or talked too much. The city council last year, they have a contract with a consulting firm called the Retail Coach, and they are looking out at what types of uses and where are we in hitting some of those retail and restaurant uses. And because, for example, if Quick Trip comes somewhere, and I probably shouldn't have said that name, but other people will go in that community because they know they've done their due diligence and there must be something growth going on, for example. And a lot of not a lot, but several developers, residential and non-residential, talk about incentives. And that's something that administration and finance and public works and community development work together on in terms of community development and public works don't look at the numbers. We look at, okay, if you're going to get incentives, what can we get that's above and beyond? So, jump in.
Put me on the spot here.
Well, that's your background more than mine.
Yeah. One of the other things that developers can look at, they'll take a look at that comprehensive plan. So they'll take a good hard look at it, especially if they're like the folks today out of Utah. They obviously did their due diligence, and as with any person doing site selection, that's one of the first documents they're gonna open up and take a look at. They may also look at like an economic development packet that maybe the city provides, a marketing packet that we're providing, showing different areas of the city that are key areas for certain types of development. So there's a lot of things that goes into those site selections, site selection or developers before they even come in and talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they, the Magnolia Fields, you're right, they did their homework. They may have set the bar, at least for my future expectations anyway.
I noticed that too, the presentation was really easy. I mean, to take the time to take pictures. I'm very visual, so if I don't see, I can't. They took pictures from the road, and I was like, oh, that's just.
Yeah, they photographed
why I
all of
asked.
their deviations.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was really good.
I thought that too.
Thank you, Bob.
I think if that kind of put a bow on our discussion there, can we get a motion to close the meeting if everyone is okay with that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.